Hello everyone, Professor Christensen here. In this video, we're going to take a quick look at simple versus compound interest. So our learning objectives are, when we're done with this video, you should be able to define simple interest, define compound interest, calculate simple interest, calculate compound interest, and use the future value function in Excel. So here's the example we'll be working with. JG Enterprises, Inc. deposits $5,000 in an account paying 5% interest. How much interest will the company earn over the next 5 years if 1. It earns simple interest, 2. It earns compound interest compounded annually, and 3. It earns compound interest compounded semi-annually. We'll also take a look at what the balance will be in the company's account at the end of 5 years. So let's take a look at simple interest first. Simple interest is interest based only on the principal or the amount that you deposited. And you've probably seen this before. It's principal times rate times time. The principal is the amount deposited, the rate is the annual interest rate, and the time is in terms of a year. So let's take a look at this example here. And let's look at simple interest and what the account balance will look like over the course of 5 years. We're going to do these the long way so that you understand the concepts behind the numbers, and then we're going to do it the faster way, which is a little bit quicker formula and also using the future value function for compound interest. So at the end of year 1, we're going to have interest equal to $5,000, which I'm going to make absolute because we're going to use the same numbers, times 5%, so that's the principal, times the rate, times the time. And the time is technically 1. We don't, of course, need the 1, but just so that we understand, principal times rate times time. So our interest is $250. At the end of the year, the balance in the account is going to be the original amount plus the interest. Now we're going to have the same interest every year. So every year our account goes up by $250. And at the end of 5 years, the company has $6,250 on hand. So that's the answer to the first one. The interest it earned is the difference between these two. So the interest is the $1,250, right? Or the sum of these 5 here, $1,250. Okay, so now let's take a look at what happens when we have compound interest. Now, compound interest is the interest that's used in most business situations, many accounting applications. Compound interest means interest is earned on the principal plus it's earned on any previously earned interest. Very powerful concept. If you deposit money and you are earning interest, and then you earn interest on your interest, that's awesome, right? Because you didn't do anything, but the money keeps growing and growing. Much faster than it would with simple interest. So at the end of our first year, our interest is going to be the principal times the rate, times the time. We'll put the 1 in, right? Because it's the same. Now, I'm going to make this absolute because this will be the same. Okay, and this is going to be equal to this plus that, the same as before. Now, we're going to drag this down. Every year, you're going to see what happens. What happens is, as our balance goes up, our interest goes up. So the amount of interest we earn every year increases. And it'll keep increasing if you left the money there. So with compound interest, at the end of 5 years, they're going to have a balance of $63.81.41. So they earned interest on their interest. All right, now let's see what happens when interest is compounded semi-annually. This means that interest is recorded twice a year. So when you have interest compounded more often than once a year, then there's 2 things that you do. You take your interest rate and divide it by the number of compounding periods per year. Divide your interest rate by the number of compounding periods per year. So we're taking our 5%, dividing it by 2, and that's giving us 2.5%. That's what we're going to use. And then you take your number of years and multiply it by the number of compounding periods each year, and that gives you the total number of compounding periods, which is going to be 10. So one mistake that students sometimes make is they adjust one but not the other. So make sure that if you're dividing your interest rate, you multiply your number of periods. Okay? So now let's think about this for a minute. Do you think they're going to earn more interest or less interest if they compound twice a year? Hopefully you said more interest, because more compounding means more interest on more interest, and it's going to be a little bit greater than it was before. Okay, so we're going to have principal again, the 5,000 times the 2.5%. Times 1. Now, another way to do this is to say the 5,000 times the 5% times 6 divided by 12, or a half a year, right? But we're going to do this for now. We divided our interest rate because it is going to come in handy when we do some of our calculations later. This is equal to this plus this. I made that absolute. So this is going to increase every year, and we end up with $6,400 at the end of the 5 years. Okay, so now obviously you don't have to sit here and do all of this. I'm going to show you a much faster way, but I want you to understand when you use a future value function in Excel what the program is doing for you, and what it's doing is all of this. So let's go back here to our simple interest, and let's take a look at a quicker way to do this. So our interest for the 5 years is again going to be equal to the principal times the rate times the time, and the time is 5 years, and then we would add that to our principal and we would get the total, which is the same as the total we got before, right? So that's a little bit faster way, but I wanted you just to see the difference between this one here and this one here, where the interest is calculated on interest. So our simple interest, that's what it looks like. We end up with the $6,250. Now let's use the future value function. The future value function in Excel tells you, given a certain amount of money now, knowing the interest rate and the number of periods, what will our value be in the future? So that's what we want to know here. We know we have $5,000 to start with. How much will it be worth in the future? And of course, we already know our answer because we did it the long way. But let me show you how the future value function works, because that's the thing you're probably going to be using most of the time. All right, so we say equals FV. That's our future value. Now, it's asking us for the rate. Okay, our rate is 5%. It's asking you for N per, which is the number of periods. So in this case, the number of periods is 5. Now it says payment. Now payment is if you have an annuity. An annuity is a series of equal payments equally spaced in time. So an annuity would be if you were putting in $5,000 every year. Now we'll take a look at that in a different video. But for this, for now, we're just going to skip that. So we're just going to hit another comma because our payment is 0. Our present value is the amount we have now. Close our parentheses. Oops, I forgot to put the minus, which my students will tell you that I always forget to put the minus in front of the amount because the amount is getting paid out, so that's negative. Okay, so we can see same amount here as we had before, but much faster using the future value function. Now, let's use the future value function if we have interest compounded semi-annually. So we're going to do equals future value again. Our rate is 2.5%, or you could put 5% divided by 2 in there. That's okay also. Our number of periods now is 10. Again, no payment because payment is an annuity. This is only one payment, and our present value is $5,000. So again, we have 6,442, same amount that we had before, much faster. Okay, so That's a quick lesson on the difference between simple versus compound interest. I hope you found it helpful. Please subscribe to my channel and give us a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video. Happy studying!